There we go. Alright, so there's that. Hopefully the sound's good, blah blah blah. Waiting for the stream to actually come on and give it time, because once you start it, there's a section of lag, kind of, and then there's a section of lag at the end from when you want to stop it, so give it like a minute, you know?
Okay.
Alright, I think we're going to get going here. Alright, everybody, here we go. I don't have any intro music or anything, so we're just going to dive right into this. I am Will, the Amazombie from SC2 Newscast, doing some podcasts over there, if you happen to recognize that at all. And we are here with our good buddy KirbyTron here. And we are going to be talking comics again. This is yographicraps, episode, like, I don't know, 4 or something.
Something like that.
Something like that. It's kind of just a fun little project that we're playing with. May eventually, hopefully, maybe build and grow into something else, but we'll see. So, hey, how have you been? What's been going on?
I've been good. I've been, like, into summer, you know? I've been taking my kid to Santa Cruz and Monterey, like, too many times.
We're actually, I am not a summer person. I'm a winter person, overall. The only thing I love about summer is baseball. Apart from that, and swimming. Sorry, baseball and swimming are my two favorite summer things. Apart from that, I hide in the house in my air conditioning. And I read, like, that's my thing. But on that note, I am going to San Francisco, going to a ball game next week. So we'll be in San Francisco next weekend. Oops, not this coming weekend though. Like, not tomorrow, but the week after. Yeah.
Are you coming through Merced?
No, we're just gonna go San Francisco and back. We had planned out. So actually, it's funny. It's my late birthday. My birthday was in March, and in March, Amber wanted to get me Giants tickets, go to a game. So we just decided, let's plan it out months in advance and plan out other things to do while we're in San Francisco that weekend. So that's what we're gonna finally do, like Alcatraz and shit like that. You know, San Francisco's like almost like my second hometown. I've never been to Alcatraz, you know. We're going to try and hit up, on the note of comic books, we're going to try to hit up the Cartoon Art Museum also in San Francisco. So that should be entertaining, hopefully. I've heard kind of mixed reviews about there, so.
Yeah. I haven't really heard too much about it, but have you ever been to the Academy of Sciences?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was just going to say you got to go there because I took Ryder there, and he loved it.
Yeah, I actually took Amber for the first time last time we were in San Francisco last year in November. And she was just blown away because she'd never seen dinosaur bones and stuff before, right? And I'm like, dude, I mean, we came here all the time when we were little. Like, back when it was different at the time, but yeah, I don't know, so it kind of blew her away. So she's excited. We may still do that this trip. We've talked about it. I'm doing Giants game on Sunday. I got seats for the wall, which is awesome. I've never actually sat at the wall. It's one of the few places in the stadium that I've never actually sat. I have stood with standing room only tickets, you know? So that'll be nice. That'll be fun. And then we're doing Alcatraz and the Cartoon Art Museum, and I'm thinking there was something else that I'm missing. I don't remember right now, but it should be a good time. It'll be a good, like, 3-4 day weekend. I'm literally working 1 day next week, and I'm taking the rest off, so I'm happy.
That sounds great.
Yep.
Yeah, my vacation ends in 2 weeks, so I'm sort of bummed about that. But I've basically just been out of town, like, twice every week. You know, if I can't stay in one spot, I just, like, come home and go someplace else. Like, we just got back from taking my grandma to Monterey and going to the aquarium,
which is like my favorite place in the world.
Yeah, it's great. And then I'm leaving tomorrow to go up to Bayshore Meadows to our family's property. So it's just like one thing after another, and I have like this huge stack of comics that are unread. And
yeah, so give us a little rundown of your unread books. It was because we're gonna battle with unread books here, our reading list.
I'm sure you'll win. But, you know, I'm all the way back to free comic book day.
Yep.
That's,
Now, see, I will admit I had an advantage on that because I got my free comic book day comics like a week before they came out. So I was able to knock those out super fast.
Yeah, well, you suck.
I know.
Advantages. So, okay, so Mouse Guard from
Yep.
Free Comic Book Day, you know, which I want to read. And then this one, Dial H.
Mhm.
I have no idea, but it looked cool, and I heard it was cool. It's part of the new 52, so I was going to try it out. I haven't. And then another one I wanted to try out was like Image Comics, Ted McKeever, Mondo, and I really bought it just because that looks kind of like the Hulk. And it's just great artwork. You know, I just really like that style. And it looks like it's going to be incredibly interesting, but I have no idea because I didn't read it. And then I like special ordered at my comic book store Stardust,
Neil Gaiman.
Yeah, because of our read. And then, you know, of course, I haven't cracked it at all. And then Batman is totally my favorite. Has always been my favorite. So I'm always looking for the next best Batman. And the Batman that I loved, really was what is it, Loeb and gosh.
You're talking from like a few years ago?
Yeah.
Yeah. The creative team from a few years ago.
Yeah, do you know who I'm talking about?
Yeah, I don't remember the names, but yeah. I actually, see, I don't generally read Batman or too many of the soups, but I did read some of those, because you're talking about, like, or is that around the time when, like, the Bruce Wayne died thing?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So I did read some of those.
Well, I'm not a huge Superman or super soup either, but but Batman, like certain Batmans I really love, and my friend John, he knows that, and he's such a salesman, and he's like, you gotta read this, so I bought this.
Is that the trade?
This is
or what is that?
This is okay, so it's proclaimed one of the best Batman epics ever. So let's see, we'll see, I guess.
Well, I mean, what's it called?
It's called The Black Mirror.
Okay.
And it's by Scott Snyder Jock and Francesco Francavilla. Anyway, it looks cool, so I bought it. Anyway, and then there's this paper bag, which is just disappointing. And if my local comic book shop guy, Mike, ever sees this, or my God, the artist ever sees this, I would feel so ashamed. But this is my brown paper bag that gets collected at my comic book store, and there's one waiting for me to be picked up now.
The classic pull list.
Yeah. But this has all of Batwoman, part of the new 52. That's special because the artist, J.H. Williams, is a local artist. He lives here in Merced. And, J.H. Williams III, every time I go, I get my comic book signed by him, and he says for Ryder, so I'm saving them for Ryder.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and, he's a badass. He worked with Alan Moore. He's amazing, and, I think it was, but it's interesting because, okay, so I only read 1 and 2, and I have 9 here.
You got, what's that? You're kind of cutting out there for a second.
I said, I only read 1 and 2. And
oh, okay.
3 to 9. So I'm bad. I'm so disappointed in myself. And then there's, more waiting for me. So.
Well, that's just the way it goes in general. What?
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry, I had a cat tearing up pictures.
Okay, let's see how you beat me.
All right. Well, first of all, I'm sorry. I was in the middle of trying to pull up something that I wanted to show off. But, all right. Things that I have. So I've got stacks of Rassle comics. I've got stacks of Spider-Mans, which I don't really read the Spider-Mans anymore. but I collect 2 copies of every issue of Amazing Spider-Man. I started that when Curtis was a little bit before Curtis was born, so he actually has a copy of his own of every Spider-Man since he was born. And I just did that because Spider-Man was always my favorite. I grew up as a Spider-Man fan. I've got things like a bunch of indie stuff like Straw Man, which is really neat. I know the artist. I talk with him online some. He's part of the Cerebus fan group, so we talk comics and whatnot. So I got those all. They're all signed and everything, which is really neat. Oh, check this. All right. So this I just got recently. I was told it was 11 by 17 print. Or, excuse me, 11 by 17 piece of artwork. Unfortunately, I bought a frame for it that was 11/17, and it doesn't fit, because it's actually slightly awkward. But this is an original sketch of Cerebus Archive number 2, the zombie variant, by Dave Sim. And that's his original sketch, and he signed it. Oh, excuse me, number 1. Cerebus Archive number 1, zombie cover, rough pencil, Dave Sim, to Will, with best wishes and many thanks. So,
oh, that's cool.
That's neat. I love this, and I want it on my wall, but I don't have the frame for it yet. So for right now, it just sits on my pile of books on one side. I've got Mage Comics, which I love Matt Wagner, which we're going to talk a little bit about that because he did the Grendel book that we are going to be discussing a bit of. But Matt Wagner, I've just been trying to collect like the old single back issues and trade paperbacks. So, oh, excuse me, I literally just got this shipment in today from Mile High. I ordered some back issues from Mile High, which, of course, if you need back issues, you go to Mile High.
Okay. I didn't know that.
Go to Mile High Comics. Go to their website.
No, Mile High Comics.
Now, the thing about it is that their website blows ass. Okay, it's hard to navigate. Their search function sucks, but they have the largest selection and the best prices.
Hey, well, you know,
yeah, you just gotta.
They'll watch this and change it up.
I know, right? No, I mean, you gotta respect Mile High and what they did for comic. I mean, they're one of the most important industries in comic book collecting history, but it's a pain in the ass to navigate their website. It's like, dude, come on, it's so easy just to get a shake and bake website, you know, with SQL databases to keep your stuff. Like, it's not hard, guys, but whatever. I got this.
You'd be surprised, man. You'd be surprised how many people can't do that.
I know, but see, the thing is there's a difference between what you can do and what is literally shake and bake. Like, you can buy online, you can purchase, and say, oh, here's everything. Plug it in, type in your name, essentially, and then it does it itself. That's what amazes me. Or you pay, I mean, a high school kid that needs extra cash that knows how to do this shit. You give him $200 on the side to set it up. I mean, they're gonna do it, right? Like, I don't know. But then I got the Comic Book History Comics trade paperback, which I have not read. I will get to that at some point. I got the new printing of The Crow Midnight Legends Volume 1 from the late 90s. This is the one from the mid-90s after the movie came out. James O'Barr did another volume, so that's what that is. I haven't read them. I'm a little embarrassed, of course, but I have not had time to read them, but I did get the Before Watchmen series.
Oh, neat.
I mean, you pretty much have to give them a chance, you know.
Yeah.
But I have not gotten around to reading them. I've got the new Rachel Rising. I've got...
Your stack totally.
I know, this is like
out of the water.
A joke. Like
I thought mine was bad.
I just got the newest Jeff Smith, Rassel and this is...
That's cool. That's the Sweet Tooth author.
No. Jeff Lemire, Sweet Tooth.
Jeff Lemire.
Jeff Smith, right. Rassel, Bone. Guy who did Bone.
That's right, okay.
And this is the signed, numbered Comic-Con edition.
You know, I'm always, like, attracted to that comic purely based on the way he writes his name.
What, the Rassel?
Yeah, like, it's very strange, but, like, every time I see his name, I'm attracted to his comics purely for that.
So,
aesthetically for that.
Yeah. So what's weird is, when I first started reading, I happened to just get back into reading, because I read comics when I was young, and then I kind of got out of it, right? I just started getting back into it, and I go into the comic shop. This is back home, where you are.
Yeah.
And this is when this
comic, right?
This still when Cop Comic was there, right? And I was already living up here, but I was back there on a trip. And I had just moved up here, and I was one of the first couple trips went down there. So I go into Cop Comic, and I'm looking through, off to the side, there was the rack with most of the indie books and whatnot.
Yeah.
So I'm back there, and I see this comic called Rassel. And I'm like, this looks interesting. I don't know anything, but just based on the cover. I saw the name Jeff Smith, but it didn't click to me who it was. So I'm just like, okay, whatever, this looks interesting, I'll buy one. And then I take it home, and it happened to be #1, it was when it just came out, it was like that month, it was brand new. And I read it, and I'm flipping through it like, this is absolutely amazing, this is, a craft that is not found in, with any normal artist. So then I'm like, wait a minute, who is this guy? And I looked it up and I'm like, oh, that's the fucking Bone guy, like, duh, like, I felt like such an idiot, right? I just didn't connect the two at all in my head. So that was kind of fun. And this is literally the last issue of Rassel, this is the last trade paperback, they're done with that series, so it's a little too bad. I've got Dave Gibbons and Mark Millar, Secret Service. I've got the new Crow series from IDW that I read the first issue here and I wasn't that impressed, honestly. Quick capsule review there. I got this book called Wild Children that I don't know anything about. It came in my order. I must have ordered it, but I am sitting here looking at it like I have no idea what this is. I don't remember ordering that, but
looks cool.
Yeah, I mean, it looks cool. I don't know what it is. I'll read it at some point. So, I don't know. Just a ton of stuff. Jeff Lemire. Here's Sweet Tooth, Jeff Lemire, Underwater Welder. I recommend this heavily.
I'm interested, yeah. I love him. I love Sweet Tooth. I got actually pointed to Sweet Tooth and Wasteland because of the comic book project me and Adam Ariano and Ben Davidson were working on. Mm-hmm. Because... Did I ever tell you about that?
Yeah, you mentioned it. I think in our last episode, or one of them, we talked a little bit about it.
Oh, yeah. Just the whole, post-apocalyptic thing where people become... Yeah, we talked about it because Black Hole, that's right.
That's right, yep.
Yeah, and that's how I got, directed towards Black Hole. Yeah. Anyway,
so,
Sweet Tooth, great.
Sweet Tooth. Have you read, on that note, have you read Essex County?
No.
See, that was the one that made Lemire famous. That was the book, and it's this big, massive volume, right?
Nice.
And it is. He is a.
That would be a cool one to read.
Well, we may have to do that soon. Maybe after the next one, we'll go with Essex County. I also have
the idea of reading thick ones,
See,
and then really having a full-on discussion about it.
That's what I love, because I love the big fucking graphic novels, right?
Dude, yeah.
And let me show you, in case you've never read it, we are going to do this one soon, maybe in a few episodes. And if you haven't read it, you better have, because it's one of my favorite books ever, not just comic books. But this is Blanket. If you've never seen this or read it, you will, because it is absolutely epic.
Okay, so I get recommended. It comes up on my recommendation on Amazon all the time.
Well, so Amazon knows what they're talking about, all right? I've reread this. Usually keep, this is the nice hardcover one that just came out last year, the 12th printing of it or something, and I usually keep it on my nightstand. And it's the thing that whenever I'm bored, I just pull it. Well, I used to keep it on my nightstand. Now I have a digital version on my Kindle, so I usually keep that on there.
Okay, so why do you just always go back and look at it?
Because the craft of storytelling, not just storytelling. So Jeff Lemire, as we were talking about, is a beautiful storyteller, and he uses the comic book art form to really pace out a nice story, I think. Now, Craig Thompson, Blanket, and Habibi, and Goodbye Chunky Rice.
Goodbye Chunky Rice.
Okay, same guy. Same guy who did... Yeah, Goodbye Chunky Rice is brilliant, right?
Yeah.
He has this... And that was his early one. Goodbye Chunky Rice was like his first kind of graphic novel.
Okay.
Blankets was his big second one. He has a couple kind of in between there, but Blankets is generally always listed as one of the top 5 greatest graphic novels ever written. And it's it's not just that he's an excellent cartoonist. He draws well, right? He writes well. He tells a good story. But it's the way he puts it together in the comic book medium that can't exist separately from that medium.
Show me something.
So, okay. All right.
I just want a page.
Yeah. I'm trying to find a few good ones here. Okay. I don't know what you can see here. It's kind of hard.
Move it over a little bit. Over. Yeah, you're going the right direction.
Can you kind of see?
Back it up a little bit. Kinda. I can't see.
Yeah, it's hard to tell.
Yeah.
But he uses his art to not only tell. It's not just words and pictures. It's not words telling what's going on in the picture, and it's not pictures showing you what's happening with the words. It's using them in conjunction to really add emphasis to each point. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I do. No, that's actually, yeah, that's what I love about comics. I was just telling somebody that the other day, like, yeah, because my friend was just starting to get into comics, and she's like, what is it? You know, I think she had some wrong comics or something, you know, and she, yeah, she was like, I don't really get it, you know, and I'm like, well, you know, it's not for me, you know, I've always kind of been a little bit oblivious about the comic book world because I've never been comfortable enough to like fully dive in.
Yeah.
Of course, nowadays it's becoming so hip, you know, and almost like I don't know, like my friend Sarah would say, ironic to be a comic book nerd. You know, it's like, yeah, I don't know. Anyway, it's like
well, it's geek chic, yo.
Geek chic. There you go. And so now everybody's into it, but I always I was always like, you know, I got into it originally with like some cool old X-Men comics because I loved X-Men. That was always like my thing. I loved X-Men. But then, you know, as I grew up, I was still attracted to comics, but I really just didn't give a shit about superhero stuff anymore, you know? And then I was like in a bookstore in Berkeley or something, or Seattle or somewhere, and I started getting the little zines, the little comic book zines, and then like going, you know, further and further, and like I found Optic Nerve, and then like, you know, all of a sudden I was like, oh, there's an indie comic world. The reason why I then just dove into the indie comic world because it's different than just going and looking at a piece of art, which can be like so impactful and beautiful.
Yep.
And it's different than reading a novel. And it's absolutely different than a movie, because I mean, I know that they like use comic books now to make these movies and everything. But it's different because you get to sit there like you could in an art museum and just sit there with the art and the moment on the page like forever and just like be in that beautiful moment forever. And that's something that you can't find anywhere. And when you get a good comic book artist and writer that can do that together or just as a whole package, that's fucking amazing.
I know. No, and that's exactly like we were talking about before, that Understanding Comics by Scott McCloud. That's like the whole point of his book is to specify that it is this entirely new art form, and go into reasons why it is this new art form, and what the medium, how it hasn't been explored very much. There's still all these things you can do. And he goes into all the reasons why it's different from film or different from words and pictures even, you know, how now see, I've always found it interesting bringing up film, about how to me film and comic books are the two closest related just about art form medium. They are in a lot of ways. They're not exactly the same at all, but when making a film, what's the first thing that they generally do once they have a script? Is make a storyboard, which is a comic book, right? It's essentially making a comic book, showing not, you know, every motion, but giving you the idea of it, right?
That's why I think so many like comic book movies are being adapted nowadays. The industry's finally caught on, like, oh hey, this is easy. It's already mapped out for us.
It's just shoot what's already there, right? Like that's all you got to do, and that's why. And then it's interesting because the best comic cartoonists, I think, I mean, for different reasons. Like Craig Thompson, we were talking about Blankets. He's great at merging those two, the art portion and the story portion, to create something great. You couldn't just shoot his book as a movie. It wouldn't really work. You'd miss out on some stuff, I think. But there's other things like Jeff Smith, we were talking about Bone. There's moments in the Bone series that the way that he cartoons them and shoots out the scenes could easily be taught in drama film classes, I think. You know what I mean? About pacing, about using the reader's mental closure, again, to tell the part of the story with them. It's really, really good and interesting, and I don't know. It just is what it is, and it just depends. Some stuff maps over really well, other stuff doesn't. Some stuff you can take the story of and maybe do it a completely different way as a film, and still make something great out of it, just something different. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I don't know. It is interesting. Jeff Lemire, Craig Thompson, Jeff Smith, Dave Sim are like my heroes right now. Like,
I need to check out some more. I need to check out some more Dave Sim, and I need to check out Dave Sim.
He's the man.
And I want more Jeff Lemire, and then yeah.
So on that note, I'm gonna show this on the stream. I don't think you'll see it. Do you have the stream up?
I don't. It confuses me because I hear us talking minutes later.
That's totally fine. But I'm gonna throw this up on the stream for a quick second. It's part of his I want to show this off because it's so fucking badass. The part of he had his recent Kickstarter campaign that ended last month.
Yeah,
and
I saw you posting.
Yeah, it was awesome. But what was really cool is, let me find a main screen. Okay, so this is a little this is a print. I'm throwing it up on the stream. It's a little hard to see. But let's do it this way. Add media file. No. Add screen region. There we go. Made it full screen on the stream. So this is it's the print that he did with Kevin Eastman, and it's Matisse the Unknown Turtle, and it's basically Dave Sims Cerebus the Aardvark dressed up like a Ninja Turtle, and then Kevin Eastman did all the background with the other Ninja Turtles. And it's a signed and numbered print that we're all getting, everyone who donated $50 or more to the Kickstarter. It's absolutely awesome. So, really neat. I just wanted...
What's our website again?
Here, I will send it to you. Hold on.
I thought I had it in my reader, but...
Where is my...
I don't know how this crap works.
Okay, here, I'm gonna send it to you over the Skype here. There you go.
Oh, there we go. Look at there. Wait, where'd it go? Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. That's where it is.
Yep. So that is the awesome print, if you see it coming up there.
Oh! Oh, yeah. Look at that. Nice.
So I'm pretty excited about that. He was talking about trying to get Bob Burden of Flaming Carrot fame in on a print, and they said probably the next Kickstarter campaign they do for the next digital set of books, they're going to try and get Bob Burden and do an awesome Cerebus and Flaming Carrot print. So that's really going to be neat. I like all the old indies. These these are like the godfathers of indies, right? And they just do a cool shit. That's I dig it.
Yeah, that's pretty
cool.
So
let me take that off there. All right.
I mean, I think it had to be more of a Dave Sims fan to truly appreciate it, but
yeah, well, or Ninja Turtles. I mean, if you're a Kevin Eastman.
I just realized.
What?
I just Tim's picture for the first time.
Oh, my Napoleon Dynamite there.
Yeah.
Well, I had for him when he was not here. Of course, anybody who's seen this before, we occasionally have a third member that if he can make it, he makes it. If not, whatever. But whenever someone's not here, I like to throw up a little picture. I had Darkness from the movie Legend for him for quite a while, and I just switched it to a Napoleon Dynamite because it's just too fabulous.
Yeah, he's a little bit more Napoleon Dynamite than he is Darkness. But
Well,
maybe in spirit he's Darkness.
Yeah, no, he's not. He's a bit too much of a geek to be Darkness. So let's move on a little bit now. the book that we were going to read was, of course, if anyone saw the last episode, was Grendel, Behold the Devil, which is the last Grendel series to come out. Now, of course, Amber has her confession here that she did not make it through the book, unfortunately. But that's okay. What we can talk about...
Yeah.
What's that?
I said I've just been having too much of a good time on vacation, and I just haven't cracked a book.
That's totally fine. But we're going to talk a little bit about what Grendel, I think, kind of represents in comics. I don't know, have you ever read any Grendel or Matt Wagner? Have you seen much of it?
No, I mean, the only Grendel I know is, Beowulf.
Okay. So that's who, of course, the character's named after. He's, Grendel, of course, mythologically speaking, the Beowulf Grendel is basically the incarnate of evil, right? He's the beast. So that's kind of what the Grendel character represents, at least in the early days of Grendel. A quick history, Matt Wagner started Grendel in the 80s. He used to work exclusively with a company called Comico, which is now out of business. And he did Grendel and Mage, were his two big series. And it kind of solidified him as one of the kind of new great storytellers of the 80s. And since that day, he's kind of... it's not that he's lost... He's just kind of... He doesn't do much stuff anymore. He only releases stuff every once in a while, very slowly, so you just don't see very much of him around. But Grendel, this is based on the first character of Hunter Rose, which is the first Grendel, or at least the first Grendel that we have a storyline for. Grendel is... They go into... he moves it into a big sweeping story arc from just a guy who has this thirst for blood, essentially, turning it into this sweeping storyline that involves armies. It involves, it goes over like hundreds and hundreds of years. This huge story arc that involves this whole Grendel character. And it turns into a cult, it turns into a religion, hundreds of years in the future, it turns into blah, blah, blah. So, it does get really cool, it's really interesting, but...
So this is the first of the series that we're reading?
No, this is actually, so this is the first Grendel character, but this is actually the last story that he released.
Okay.
So this came out in a few years ago, and it was part of the 25th anniversary of Grendel. Of him doing Grendel stories. So it's like I said, it's a big sweeping story, and as you read through the book, they mention things like characters like Christine Spar, and there's like excerpts from the book. Now, you don't need to know the whole storyline to kind of understand what's going on, but if you do know more of the storyline, you understand who these other characters they mention are, right? Grendel is, of course, this is the first Grendel. This is Hunter Rose is his name. He's basically a writer. That's his cover. He's this normal guy named Hunter Rose who's a writer. He's a rich kind of playboy. Now, on the side, what he does is he's this super powerful... He has no actual powers. He's just a very, very highly skilled martial artist and weapon master and whatnot. And so he decides to, in this whole storyline, he decides to, that he can pretty much do whatever he wants. He's almost like a god because he's so much better at martial arts and weaponry than anybody else, right? He can just kill anyone at a moment's notice and pretty much get away with it. No one would know. So... He uses his Grendel persona, which is with the mask and his little sword and or his staff trident thing that he uses, to become a warlord, almost the leader of the mafias in New York in the 80s. This all takes place in the early 80s, the Hunter Rose storyline. And, what's interesting about it to me, why I love the Hunter Rose character and the Grendel storyline as a whole, especially, it's a study on... It's not just... I mean, it's bloody, it's gory. There's a lot of death, there's a lot of killing, But what I like about it is it's not just it's a study in human evil almost. It's a study in just human violence and how we can use it as a tool, right? And so that's what I find most interesting about and especially the Hunter Rose character. He has no remorse. He's a complete sociopath. His entire purpose is to just prove to himself and the world that he's the greatest person ever. I mean, that's basically his motivation. And he uses it. He uses it in such an interesting way. So almost all the storylines that involve around him, they connect with. He has, they connect almost with the people around him, right? He has an assistant who knows who he is. He knows he's Grendel, and he helps him. As to why, they don't ever know. They don't ever say why he has this assistant that, he does the paperwork and the money laundering and everything else for him, right? It's like his general. And then he's got a little girl that he adopted that he calls his niece. That he got from, I think, if I remember correctly, it was a girl that was left alive after he killed a bunch of fucking people, right? Like some kind of... He murdered a bunch of people, and then there was this girl left, so he took her as his own. And that's basically his life. And what's weird is the way that he connects this super violent and megalomaniac Grendel character with the Hunter Rose that loves his niece and treats her and brings her up as his own, as basically like his daughter.
Is he like both a villain and a hero?
No, he's a villain. I mean, he's just straight off a fucking bad guy.
Okay.
But that's almost what makes it interesting is even though he's a complete fucking bad guy, right? You're supposed to hate him, but you don't on one level because his character is so interesting, and the way he writes about like. If he slips up, the way that he frames, the way Matt Wagner frames the entire Grendel, especially the Hunter Rose storylines, Hunter Rose, you hear him speak mostly through his diaries. So you'll see him, fighting or doing whatever, and you'll see like the diary clipping along with the page of what Hunter Rose thought about that.
Yeah.
And he's just so. There is no remorse. There's no feeling. There's just his own. There's his own, like, let's say, if he has.
He's kind of like a sociopath.
Yeah, he's a hardcore sociopath, but yet you find it intriguing because he's so concerned with his own almost image. On that note, like, he writes if he has the slightest slip up, he writes about it and he's mad at himself, for letting someone see him. He's very, very egotistical.
So I gotta ask you a question.
Mm-hmm.
This is gonna change the tangent, and it's kind of, a big thing to change the topics on at the last minute because I'm gonna have to leave in about 8 minutes.
That's totally fine.
But this just made me think of it, and I think that we probably have to talk about this if we're gonna be up on news and stuff.
Do it.
Okay, so I've been kind of wondering, so obviously what happened on the night of the midnight showing with Batman in Colorado and everything.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure what it's being called or whatever, but...
Yeah, the Aurora shootings is...
Yeah, the Aurora shootings. Yeah. So, it kind of bothered me, when I heard of... Well, it, greatly bothered me, but it bothered... Whenever things like that, I usually kind of distance myself a little bit from him.
Sure.
But I've been thinking about it a lot, so I haven't been, following it too much on the news. I followed it as far as knowing that the guy was taken into custody, and that Christian Bale went as himself to visit the victims.
Yep.
As far as I followed it.
Okay. Yeah, there's a little bit more, but that's basically it, yeah.
Yeah, so I was thinking about it a lot, and I'm like, that's it's interesting because when you're reading comics about a character like that, like this Hunter Rose character, and even me when like I've been, part of the reason I'm a fan of Batman is I've always been also a fan of Batman's villains. Like
Which,
like,
on that note, quick interjection, there are two Batman Grendel crossovers. You should check them out. Where one is him fighting Hunter Rose Grendel. One of him is fighting one of the future Grendels who comes back in time, named Grendel Prime. Very excellent storylines. Check them out.
Yeah.
Okay, so continue on that. I'm sorry.
Well, no, and I was gonna say, like, before I, had Ryder, I was like, I love villains. I'm a writer, and I love villains, and I love like thinking about their thought process and their mind and what makes them, and like the very thin line that separates a hero from a villain. And like I was especially a huge fan of the Joker, and my God, like the way what's his face played the Joker,
Heath Ledger.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Jeez.
it's pretty fucking phenomenal, right?
Yeah, yeah. Like as a fan of the Joker, like I couldn't imagine anybody playing him more perfect. And like, so that was a sad loss. And then like now there's this film, and then this sad thing happens, and it's like, this guy, like what? I don't know anything about this guy's biography, but like what happens? What happened in this guy's head? Is he like consumed with the idea of comic books? Was he like a comic book fan that like just like went wacko and decided to be a villain? Like, was this intentional to like show that there wasn't really a Batman? Like
what's his motivation, right?
Yeah, what's his motivation?
And that's the biggest question of all with this whole thing so far is we don't know, right? No, they don't seem to have the slightest clue.
And he's not talking about it.
No, so he did. They do know on a few notes on it. They do know that it was premeditated. He'd been planning it out. He had been
like sketches and like a journal
and he'd been collecting the weapons for so long and everything else. Like it was maybe not planned out to a T, but at least that idea was there, and he kind of started, building up to it.
It's like it's like he was trying to create himself as a villain.
And that may be. Who knows, though? I mean, it's like at this point, because there's not much information, you just gotta almost write it off to psychopaths gonna do what psychopaths do, right? Like, but why? I don't know. I mean,
and you know what confuses me? What the biggest thing that I thought about when this happened is like, okay, so psychopaths pop up all the freaking time.
Yep.
And do insane shit that doesn't make any sense. And that seems to follow some sort of like, fictional path, being a villain, a comic book villain, or,
They usually have they have their logic, even though it's fucked up, right?
Right. Being an instrument of the Lord or whatever, those things may be, the fictional sort of like impetus to do something, right? Where are all the insane rich people that like realize, hey, Bruce Wayne just had a lot of money and a lot of corporate power, and like, he did that all he was a vigilante just because he had the resources. Like, got all the resources in the world. I should be a vigilante.
Yeah.
Where's that guy? Like it seems like in this day and age, that there should like, I mean, all right.
So the question is, I guess the point is, they may be out there, but maybe their resources are so good that we just don't know it yet. That's how good their resources are.
Well, that would be awesome, but I wish it would be nice to like see it in action.
I know. Well, what's sad is like, I mean, have you seen like the documentaries and stuff about the quote unquote real life superheroes? The people that dress up in costumes and patrol the streets.
No.
Oh, dude, there's a ton of them, but they're all just fucking they're all just nobodies, right? I mean, they're not the Batman playboys. They're not Richard Branson going out there, or James Cameron, or these guys that like to do these crazy fucking things. Well, maybe they should don a suit and a cowl and I don't know, save people. Who knows? But it is interesting. Like, maybe though it's just chalked up to the fact that rich people aren't as psychopathic. I mean, I don't.
Maybe it has something to do with like money and comfort or something. But I can tell you one thing. I mean, I might be too old at this point. I mean, I'm like only 30, but like, if I like ever like had all the money and corporate power in the world, like I would do everything. I would get myself a trainer and I would get myself a Mr. Miyagi.
Yeah.
I would go like Kill Bill styles, Like I would just be like running around righting wrongs, The only thing is that
the Boondock Saints style.
Huh?
Boondock Saints style.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd go around righting wrongs. I don't know. I mean, as much as you could, I mean, I kind of feel like I would agree with the whole Batman deal, though. No guns, but like, I don't know, like.
Well, on the same note, there are a lot of rich people that, let's say, do philanthropic things, right? you get what I'm saying? Like yeah. they do a lot of good in their own way, right? In a normal, let's say, sane man sort of way, right? Like they're like, I got $30 billion. Let's take half of it, and we're gonna create a fund for education or arts or whatever it might be, And
that's great too. But I mean, I don't know.
It'd be fucking cool to be Batman. I mean, that's what we're saying, right? Like,
if I had all the money in the world, why wouldn't I be Batman?
I know.
Or whatever, just. Or fucking Iron Man, even, Obviously you can't fly around in a metal suit yet. I'm sure the technology is there, but, I mean, it's just like, I don't know. I mean, you see all these people out there with high ambitions. I mean, even looking at the Olympics.
Mm-hmm.
You look at people who dedicate their entire lives and parents that train their children to be, like, the best of the best of the best, And I was wondering even like when I was like looking at like the gymnasts and the fencing, I'm like, man, if I was just a little bit crazier and a little bit richer, I would totally be training Ryder to be a superhero.
So that'd be like Kick-Ass.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Bringing up Hit Girl, right?
Yeah, totally. Like, making sure that he could fence and he knew how to like, MacGyver shit.
Yep,
and like, just everything. I mean, be a scientist, of course I'll probably do a lot of that anyway, but, I won't train him to get in harm's way, but still, it's just like, you wonder, like, why is it that, I mean, I guess it's kind of a dumb question. I was going to say, why is it that all the psychopathics do the crazy shit?
Why does it take crazy people to do crazy shit? I don't...
I guess, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, no, I mean, it totally does make sense, like, on one level, right? Like, I don't know, some people, though, on the same note, will look at, let's say, like, the people who, let's say, are rich, and they go out and they, like, just randomly grace people with, like, a $5,000 tip or something, Yeah. Some people look at that and think that's crazy. So other people look at that and see it as, wow, that's really generous, right? That's really nice. It's so many different factors based on outlook, based on upbringing, maybe genetics, on who does what with their life. I mean, while it would be cool, I wish that the actual superheroes, the people out there on the street, weren't just, poor guys wearing suits that are, just trying to basically be more like a neighborhood watch than anything else, right?
Yeah.
But until that happens. I mean, the problem is that we're so cynical too as a society that let's say Batman comes out. Let's say fucking Batman actually comes out. Let's say it's fucking Jeff Bezos, right, from Amazon, like the CEO. He decides to spend his money to turn himself into Batman. What's gonna happen is he's gonna do like one or two things. He's gonna be awesome, but the police are gonna fucking arrest him, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
gonna be, like bomb squads, and he's gonna be like a terrorist.
Yep.
Yeah.
And everyone's gonna be so. We kowtow so much in our society to just simple fears instead of. It connects back to this idea that I always hate when people look at things. I think I don't like the idea that the law is black and white. I think that there's a giant gray area in everything. And I like the idea that when you look at laws, when you look at things that exist, regulations, they exist for a reason, but they exist for the spirit of that reason, not for the letter of the reason. So there's too many people, though, who will sit there and if you do something slightly against the law, they're going to throw a giant fit, right?
Yeah.
Instead of looking at what's the intention. Is that what the law was designed to protect? Is that what you know what I mean? I mean,
yeah, no, I do.
I think that we've just gone so we've been trained in a lot of ways to be so afraid and fearful almost instead of just looking at things rationally. And it's like
the people that are rational thinkers out there, unfortunately, it's just like I don't know. Sometimes I think it's just because it's like it's media and like social networking that like confuse it for me. Because if I watch PBS or I listen to NPR, I'm like, oh wait, okay, wait, oh, the world's not really that bad.
Yeah.
Society's not really crumbling.
Yeah.
But if I was like to get stuck in a doctor's office and have to watch Fox News,
yeah,
or like watch my Facebook feed for like an entire
yeah,
day,
or read a fucking newspaper.
Yeah.
Like, that's the worst, right? Yeah. Like, well, no, Fox News is the worst, but, yeah. So, but yeah, no, and that's the thing is that things like newspapers and media in general, so there used to be a day back in, like, the 60s and before, when news on television especially was considered a public service, right? The stations lost money, and that was fine. Now, what happened was, in the 70s, they started making money on the news. And then they started 24-hour cable news stations, right? And so it became a thing where they have to justify the cost anymore. So capitalism took over the news, right? And so now what we get is, it's kind of like, did you ever see, of course, Michael Moore's Bowling for Columbine?
Yeah.
It's by far the best film he ever made. And he, at least in my opinion, and he brings up where he's talking to a news reporter, some guys on the street, and he says, "What if it was your choice between going to a story about a child drowning, or a story about too much smog in the air that we can't see the Hollywood sign or whatever?" Because he was in L.A. at the time. Which would you choose? And he says, "Well, we got to go to the child drowning every time." Like, it's not necessarily that story's better or more interesting. But it's the one that's going to draw them in and get the viewers. Like,
because it grabs you emotionally. It's sensational.
Yep.
And I mean, like, I'm not saying that a child drowning is sensational. It's heartbreaking and horrible.
Yep.
But like, if it's not your child in your neighborhood, it might be more beneficial to know about the Hollywood sign instead of feeling grief over something that,
Well, and also, like, the Hollywood sign, the idea was about the smog. That it affects everyone, the entire community of that area, right? But it's no one gives a shit, right? They don't fucking give two shits about it. So they don't even necessarily care about the child drowning, but it's a little bit of a drama,
Yeah.
And
which people, like, it's easy to get swept up and crave the drama. It's like it's a lower radiating energy, a lower, like,
I mean, everybody does it. Even I do it, right? I mean,
yeah, of course we can't help it. I was like sitting at like a talk, like a sort of a TED Talk thing.
Yep.
Where they were talking about actually like measuring. I can't remember if it was like energy, but it was the same way that you could like measure wattage in a light bulb, something like that. It was like a measurement of like emotions,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and it was actually something that could be like read off your like brain waves.
Sure, sure.
Right, it could be like read off your body, and it was talking about like what radiates higher and lower, and of course enlightenment and love were like highest on the radiation thing, and like whereas like fear and anger and sort of like apathy, you know, they were all like kind of the lower levels and like, you know, the negative thing. But how like it's easier to feed off of those like those bad energies, like in like we all kind of like it's easier to get with those than it is to transition to the higher ones, like exercising, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like if you go out and you exercise all the time, it's easier to exercise.
Yep.
But when you sit around more and more, it's harder to do it, and it's harder to get yourself to go out and be that way.
Yep.
And yeah, so people tend to like suck in the drama easily. I don't know what the point of that is, but it's just perhaps maybe why psychopaths do bad shit and heroes stay inside.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's interesting, and I definitely recommend reading Grendel series. Read that Grendel book. It is excellent. It's a little wonky, but it was the first Grendel I read, because I remembered Grendel from when I was a kid, but when I was a kid, I didn't care. It was too wordy. It was too, you know, I didn't give a shit, right? So, and the art is what it is, and I love the art now. I like the way he does his lines and his formats a lot, but at the time, I didn't care for it. It wasn't the big, muscly superhero guys just beating the shit out of each other. So,
Right.
so, that's what I find a lot interesting about the whole Grendel series as a whole, is that it studies those kinds of questions. Why people do what they do, why we do violent acts, why people buy into certain negative ideas. Not necessarily saying he's right in all his ideas, but just it's a study in it, you know? It's an interesting point of view.
Right, which is great.
Yep.
Which is what everybody should... Just why everybody should read comic books.
That's right. And on one last little note on that, I actually have a DVD of Matt Wagner talking, doing an interview, and he talks about something that he hates, which I loved when he said this, because it made I fully agreed with it, and it made me feel, you know, validated when he said this, right? Uh-huh. He was talking about especially darkness and violence in comic books, and especially in superhero comic books now. Superman, Batman, Spider-Man. Yeah. And one of the reasons I don't like those comics very much anymore is that they've gotten too dark and serious. Huh. While I love dark and serious, to me the superhero world is I like the golden and silver age superheroes. I almost like them being silly and ridiculous because they can, right? While I think that the negativity, the dark side of those characters is definitely interesting and worth being explored, like in The Dark Knight Rises, or you know, especially Frank Miller in the 80s did the Daredevil series, the Batman series. I don't think it should be the norm, and I think that that's taken a lot of the fun out of the comic books. It's pushed away, to me, at least from my point of view. And then what Matt Wagner said was almost the exact same thing. And he even said, the one thing that pisses me off more than anything is a pissed off Superman. Superman is not supposed to be angry and pissed off.
You know what? I kind of agree with that. Like, I don't consume Superman.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like, and I think the beauty of Superman is that he is this ideal, you know, this ideal man.
He's the ultimate good boy, right?
Yeah, and that's the fantastic thing about Superman, and I love that. But I've only really loved that in the movies.
Yeah.
I've only been like what was his name?
Christopher Reeves.
Christopher Reeves, yeah.
He's brilliant, right? Like,
yeah, he's like my grandpa, you know, like he's just the best man, you know, and you want there to be that man. You want there to be a Superman Christopher Reeves. You want there to be that guy. But I've always been attracted to reading Batman because I'm fond of the darkness.
Yeah. And
That's why
see, to me, Batman is one of the best characters for that. He works in that realm. Spider-Man, Iron Man, Superman,
and that,
they,
yeah, and
they don't. To me, they don't work in that realm very well.
yeah. I was gonna say, like, it seems like, okay, so because Batman's whole thing and the whole reason why Batman is dark is because of his past, because of what happened, and he's the hero because it's showing that out of darkness comes tragedy, and he chose to go into the darkness and clean it up, but that's why he remains there, because he knows it, and because and
I mean,
so
that's his psychological profile, right?
right.
It's
That's not Superman's psychological
no.
profile. Superman is supposed to always be, the sort of like that sort of God character.
Yeah.
That character that is like, no matter what, I'm not gonna lose faith in humanity.
Yep.
I get kind of sad. Like my father warned me about, but never lose faith, never lose hope. Just be there for humanity and don't get jaded. Like
I think of him as like he's supposed to be like our guardian angel,
Yeah.
and he exemplifies what we should be trying to be, right? In a way that like we should be good, we should stand up for what's right, we should try to live a good, healthy life. We should, like
be that humble nerd, and
Yeah.
not like not
And-
always have to be Superman.
And it's not about, and that's a perfect idea too. It's not about being Superman, right? It's about, I guess I lost my train of thought there. What I'm trying to say, but he's not looking for public image. He wasn't looking to be famous, right? It was just, I'm gonna go out there. I have this gift. I'm gonna use this gift to better humanity, right? That's basically what he was trying to do, and then he did it with no guns, no very little or at least the minimum amount of violence that he ever could use. He didn't kill people, right? Except for with like Doomsday, which was his great sacrifice, right? That's the death of Superman, killing Doomsday. That was supposed to be because Superman doesn't kill people, right? That's the whole big thing. But he killed Doomsday. But that was his big sacrifice. In order to save humanity, the only way he could was to kill himself and kill Doomsday, right? So like it was this great ideal, and now it's to me it's just gotten too ridiculous. Like not ridiculous in a fun way, almost just strangely too far out of character.
I haven't followed him, so I'm not sure like where he's going. But I mean, I agree with you that he should remain in a certain realm.
Yep, that's what I'm thinking.
But yeah, I was gonna tell you. I was gonna ask you something. Oh, I was just gonna ask you if you saw Chronicles.
No, no, is that a movie? That's a movie, isn't it?
Yeah, or Chronicle.
Yeah.
Chronicles. Watch it. We were bored one night and we rented it, and it was like, there's nothing else, but it only has like 83% on Rotten Tomatoes. It has 83% on Rotten Tomatoes, which is like pretty damn good.
Yeah.
So I watched it, and I'm like, I didn't even know where it came from. I didn't know if it's like based on a comic book or what, but it's like, it's pretty damn good. I do have to admit though that the first like maybe 40 minutes of it, you're like, come on. And you're kind of like, the whole time I was telling Joey, I was like, this is a hero-villain movie. One of these guys is going to be a villain, one of these guys is going to be a hero. That's what this is about. And Joey was like, I don't know, it doesn't seem to be going that way. I was like, yeah, it's going to go that way. But if it would have gone that way for more of the movie, it would have been better. And I want there to be another movie now, and I hope there is, but we'll see.
Yeah, no, it says here it was based on a story by the guys who wrote and directed it. So it's an original deal. But it's presented in found footage format, it says.
Yeah, sort of like Blair Witch.
Yeah.
It actually kind of works.
Yeah, no, it's cool. I don't mind the format. It's just most of the time movies that are in the format tend to suck.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
And like, did you see Apollo 18?
No.
Okay, here's my very short summary of Apollo 18. Piece of shit. That's basically it, right? Like it was not good. It was fucking dumb.
Well, and let me be clear about Chronicles. It's like there's like there's lots of plot holes and some things that don't really work, and I'm not like into the whole high school movie thing, but yeah, because it's like happens with high school kids, so you can't get around that, and they, of course, they're high school kids that live in a world that we would have never known as high school
Is
kids.
is it like The Faculty?
I haven't seen The Faculty. I don't think that's that old like horror movie. Right?
It was like from the late '90s, and it was like the high school kids and the high school teachers like got taken over by aliens or whatever. And
oh yeah, no.
Yeah, it was bad. It's really bad.
Well, it's just the whole like. It's just that whole like the whole rich kid high school world. I don't understand.
Yeah.
And it's like kids that are in this generation would like be more likely to understand it. But the end of the movie, like towards the end of the movie, you're just like, oh shit, that's really cool. Like they're really pulling this off the way they made it work. You gotta watch it.
I will. I'll check it out.
Yeah,
when I get a chance.
Yeah, you're just like, it's good if you like superhero stuff.
Superheroes
I should go.
Yep. Well, so do I. I still got to work in a little while, so. All right, cool. Well, I think that'll wrap up this episode. Oh, a quick thing on the next book we are going to read. Are you ready for this? Oh.
I am.
All right. Actually, oh no, that's right. We switched it. We talked about it. I was going to pull something else out, and then I was... Where the hell did I put it? Oh, right here. So, our next book is going to be...
Oh.
Yep. Wasteland Volume 1. This is the Apocalyptic Edition, which is just mainly just has extra stuff, extra storyline stuff, appendices, blah, blah, blah. Which I read through. I haven't read Volume 2 yet, but I have it. And so we will be doing this. And give me a good chance to reread this. By Anthony Johnston and Christopher Mitten.
Cool.
Yep. So we will be reading that, and we will talk about that in, I don't know, a month or so. Whenever we get back together, we'll hit on it. Hopefully we can get Tim in on it. We'll see.
Yeah. Well, I'll be there for sure.
Rockin'. Well, then I think that'll probably wrap us up. For anyone watching this, we have a Facebook page, facebook.com/yographicraps. You can go and like us there. You can email us if you have questions, comments, concerns, feedback at yographicraps@gmail.com. It is kind of funny because it looks like it says yographicraps when you put them together like that. It's I was like looking like, what the heck? Graphy craps. But you can go ahead and contact us there if you have any ideas or whatever. The YouTube channel right now, I'm uploading them just on my YouTube channel, my personal one, which is youtube.com/WHOFFKNE. Hopefully I will maybe set up a separate YouTube channel just for that, or a blip station or something like that. I may do that eventually. So go ahead and let us know what you think, and we will be back sometime in the near future, hopefully. Catch you next time. Thank you.